everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is a very special episode, a mini episode, if you will, to honor the life and the legacy of David Lynch. This is Reservations, and I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Wayland. Yeah, man, it was very interesting getting that text from you on it was Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah, I got it from Zach. Zach had texted me. He said R.I.P. Lynch, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" R.I.P. Lynch.
Yeah, it was Thursday.
Yeah. And sure enough, looked at it. Yep. David Lynch died, and that's a huge bummer. That one hit me harder than because most celebrity deaths, it's like, who cares? I didn't know them.
Yeah.
Who cares? It's sad, but it's fine. Like I'll live. But no, this one was different because this one is, the death of a true artist, the death of a true visionary, an individual that completely changed television and created a new genre of movies, and created even a trope that we call Lynchian, and a motif that we call Lynchian in film. So, it's a huge deal, and he was just a genuine artist. I mean, okay, it's hard, because it's hard to sing someone's praises because of what we've learned from others over the past decade. With celebrity, it's hard to just be like, oh, they're amazing. Most recently, for you specifically, Neil Gaiman. So,
yeah.
So, you never know. It's hard because you don't know these people. All you have is their body of work and their public persona, and that's what you have to go off of. I tend to think that Lynch was genuine even in public, right? His public persona is his genuine persona, is my belief.
Well, you know what? I agree with that. In all the interviews of him I've seen, the supplements on our Criterion movies, when I was watching the behind the scenes of Twin Peaks: The Return, it just seemed like that's who he was through and through. Even in his YouTube videos of reporting on the weather, and it just seemed like that's who he was. And I think there's something so refreshing about a writer or director who's just themselves 24/7. They don't put up a wall, they don't put up a farce. This is just who I am, and that's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, he was a true artist. If you've seen the documentary The Art Life, which if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's great. He loves it. He lives to create art, whatever form that takes. And when you watch his films or his TV, you can see that through and through. You can see that he just cares about the art. He just wants to tell a story, and he wants to tell it from his perspective. Right?
Yeah. One of the things I think I also really loved about him is, that he didn't want to, like you just said, he wanted to tell the story that he wanted to tell. I think we all know famously his troubled production of Dune. He wanted to tell Dune the way he felt was best.
Yeah.
But the studio kept nitpicking and changing things and making him do things, and eventually to the point where he was like, I don't want my name on this anymore. and I think that's just so fascinating, that he, but not fascinating in a bad way. Fascinating that he, at the time, Dune was probably the biggest adaptation, biggest movie, and he eventually was like, I don't want to be associated with this movie. That's just kind of the point I'm
I don't
making.
really know a lot of the backstory to that. But yeah, I mean, it's not. You don't think of it when you think of his movie. Some people do. Some people think that it's great, and I haven't seen it personally.
um,
And some people think it's awesome, think it's great. They think that like who gives a shit if it's not like perfect or if it's
my mother-in-law, she loves it.
yeah.
She's seen the original, his version, and she loves it. I'm gonna be honest. Denis Villeneuve has spoiled me. So when I went to watch Lynch's Dune, I was like, "Oh,
No, and I get that. I mean, yeah, I mean, in terms of adaptation, of course, whatever. But
yeah."
but anyway, so Lynch, what was the first? Do you remember the first thing you saw from David Lynch?
I think it was, oh, man, it had to have been, it either had to have been when we did, no, it wouldn't have been when we did Eraserhead, because I think I'd started watching Twin Peaks by that point, because I think you just kind of wore me down. It had to have been Twin Peaks.
Okay, right on.
No,
No.
no. I think it was Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
I oh man, I don't know. I'm gonna say it was Mulholland Drive. Because we did that before we did Eraserhead, right?
Probably.
I think we did. Yeah. So you know what? We're just gonna say it was Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect. And I will be honest, I'm pretty sure I said it in our episode of Mulholland Drive. I didn't know what to think because I hadn't seen a lot of things that were so surreal like that, that had hidden layers of meaning. Which of course in the episode you answer all the questions. So spoiler if anyone
I mean,
has
as
listened to that.
much as
Yeah.
one's understanding could possibly be of Eraserhead. Or
And
no, or Mahalaja. We're talking about Mahalaja.
yeah. And
that one's solvable. So.
and then rewatching it, I was able to appreciate it more, and now I love it. But I think that's what then sent me down the rabbit hole, we're gonna say, to Twin Peaks, and I immediately fell in love with Twin Peaks right out of the gate. I thought it was so original, so refreshing, for the time. Of course, it came out before you and I were born, just barely too, and yes, in the latter half of season 2, it kind of deviates from Lynch and Mark Frost's plan, but it's still a great show, and it just proved to me that David Lynch was a force to be reckoned with. And I'm so happy that we've done more of his films for the show. I've told everyone since Thursday, watch Lost Highway. If Twin Peaks: The Return is his magnum opus, Lost Highway is his masterpiece.
What?
I truly believe that. I
mean, that's fine. You think what you want. I disagree.
I loved doing Lost Highway. I thought Lost Highway was so great. I just thought it was fantastic, and I've recommended it to everyone. And I've told them it gets weird, it gets surreal, but it's amazing.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I want to ask you now, buddy, because I'm pretty sure I know the answer because I want to say you've told me.
yeah.
But what was the first thing you saw of Lynch?
So the first thing I sat down and actually watched. So to preface, I knew who David Lynch was. I had a very um, a very small, shallow understanding of Twin Peaks, and what it was and whatever. I had seen this documentary that I ended up buying because I watched it so many times. It's a documentary series called America in Prime Time. It was a PBS thing, and so they would just go through the decades and talk about um, the television shows that were influential and that were groundbreaking, and that step by step, how did we get to where we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
In television. And when they got to Twin Peaks, I remember vividly David Chase, who created The Sopranos. I remember him saying, a big part of The Sopranos and things that, and one of the elements that people seem to really enjoy and really be enamored with are the dream sequences in The Sopranos. And he said that, I just tried to do what David Lynch did in Twin Peaks, but it's impossible because what David Lynch did was he created real dreams. I mean, he created something that feels what it's like to be in a dream. And it's almost impossible to replicate that feeling. But David Lynch can do it. And I remember thinking about that, and I remember going, I need to watch this show. That sounds great. Um, and and then in college, I remember someone in my class, I think it was the history of film, asked me if I liked David Lynch. And I go, oh, I really don't know. I don't know anything really about David Lynch. And they're like, oh, good. I hate David Lynch. You're not one of those who just loves David Lynch. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. What do I know? And then that summer I was at home. I was living with mom, and I watched them back to back. And so I do not remember which one I watched first.
Okay.
I'm going to say it was Eraserhead, and we'll just go from there. So I watched Eraserhead, and I go, oh, I'm going to be one of those people who loves David Lynch because this is incredible. It's like, it's everything I loved about surrealism and more. I was in love. And then I think the next night I watched Mulholland Drive. Again, this could be vice versa. Um, when it opens with the swing dancing, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in. I am in. This is wonderful, and it was so strange. I recognized people, like, by then I was probably super into The Leftovers, so I recognized a young Justin Theroux, and I knew Naomi Watts was, and I recognized like a few other people. And I remember thinking, this is weird. I like it. But then when it got to the Winkies scene, which has been studied and written about and, dissected and analyzed for years, that's truly when I'm like, okay, this is something special. This, that it felt like a dream,
Mm.
And yeah, and ever since then, I had to watch everything he ever did, and so I ended up moving, and I went somewhere. I think maybe that was after I moved, and I went to Lubbock, whatever, and then I was like, oh, Blue Velvet. I gotta watch Blue Velvet, and that was amazing. I gotta find Lost Highway. That was hard to find at the time. I was like, I need it, And then what was my holy grail for the longest time was Inland Empire.
Yeah.
And I had to just order a special like foreign DVD of it because no one had it here in the States, and whatever.
Well,
That
thank
one was,
God Criterion
I know,
released it.
that one was tough. I'll be honest. Inland Empire is an experience, it is it's a challenge, I would say. If you're not completely on board with Lynchian, um, the Lynchian style, you're not going to be on board with Inland Empire because it's 100%. There is almost no cohesive narrative. It's also 3 hours.
Really?
Yeah, interspliced is probably one of my favorite things he's ever done. It's also the weirdest thing of his that I love, which is rabbits. He intercuts in Rabbits, which is a short film that deconstructs the idea of sitcoms and comfort television by having it's Naomi Watts. It's the woman who plays Rita in I forgot her name. I'm
Uh-huh.
and it's Justin Theroux in rabbit costumes. Um, and they're going up, and it's this weird, like it's like a sitcom setting, and they're doing these very mundane activities, and then there's a laugh track, and the laugh track doesn't match what they're doing, and it's very slow, and but it's great. So I recommend people check out Rabbits. It's on YouTube for free. If you just want to watch the 40 whatever minutes.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. I really enjoy that. But yeah, no, I just enjoy just watching something that makes me feel like I'm watching a literal dream, and it's just pure surrealism. And that's why I just love Lynch so much. And that he's just eccentric and fun, and I do recommend also looking up him campaigning for Laura Dern for the Oscars.
Yeah, that he's just sitting out with a cow.
Yeah, just in I don't know where he is in Los Angeles, but he's somewhere and he's just hanging out outside. There's a cow. He's got a sign that says Laura Dern for Best Actress. It's for Inland Empire. And it's just so bizarre,
I want to add this little fun fact because I mentioned Dune earlier. I think it is so interesting that he had such a horrible time making Dune. I don't know if you know this or if I've told you or not. Do you know what he passed up to do Dune?
No, I have no idea.
He passed up doing Return of the Jedi.
Could you imagine David Lynch's Return of the Jedi?
Dude, that would be... I mean, look, as we've spoken about at length, with any of our Lynch episodes, I feel like he has a different kind of reverence for the script if he didn't have a hand in writing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the version of Return of the Jedi we got in real life, I think would have been tweaked ever so slightly if Lynch had been on board. But I think it ultimately would have kind of been the same. But also at the same time, Lynch doesn't strike me as a space opera type of sci-fi guy.
No, but there's something about Dune because before it was Lynch, it was Alejandro Jodorowsky, who also makes these very strange, dreamlike, surrealist films. So there's something about Dune that just that hits people with a certain mindset, a certain way, I guess. But yeah, he wouldn't be right for Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah. And he strikes me also as the type of man who didn't live too much in regret. Like, he wasn't like, I should have done Return of the Jedi. I think he was more like, well, oh well.
Yeah, oh well, I'm gonna go do other stuff that I want to do, which is Twin Peaks, because he
Yeah.
had done, I think after Dune was Blue Velvet, or it was Blue Velvet then Dune. I don't know what the.
I think it was Dune, because I think, if I remember correctly, watching Kyle MacLachlan talking about, his career, I believe Dune was his debut.
Because with Blue Velvet,
Yeah, no, it was Dune.
okay.
Dune, then Blue Velvet.
So with Blue Velvet, I think is the catalyst to Twin Peaks. So what
I
Blue
agree.
Velvet is a look at the strange, surreal nightmare that is suburbia.
Suburban. Yeah.
And taking the idea of, the white picket fences and the blue skies and all that and turning it upside down and, creating this, horrific scenario.
Nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah, this horrible nightmare.
You know,
With fucking
here's
wolf.
here's a little inside baseball, everyone. We were gonna do Blue Velvet this season.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's right.
Definitely for sure future episode,
Oh,
but
it'll be next season. Don't worry.
yeah. Did I ever tell you when I got my how I got my criterion of Blue Velvet?
No.
Dad gave it to me for my birthday.
Oh.
So Dad, if you're listening, thank you. I kind of knew a little bit about Blue Velvet. So I was quite surprised when, he was like, "Oh, I got your birthday presents. Come over and get them." And one of them was the Bruce Lee Greatest Hits
Nice.
criterion. And then I flipped to the next movie, and it's Blue Velvet. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't think you would be interested in a movie like this." And I feel like he told me he saw it when it came out, and he even really liked it, or didn't like it. I don't remember what he said, or if I even asked him that. But yeah, yeah, man. And then so the other thing I want to talk about with Lynch is, I could talk for hours on Twin Peaks, which I think you and I have talked for hours on Twin Peaks. It's since this memoriam, we might do our normal release of audio than video, or maybe video only. But if you are watching, I have it tattooed on my forearm, or my underside of my arm, of Twin Peaks. I love Twin Peaks so much, dude.
Yeah.
It's, as we were talking about, or were we talking about it off mic, or I'm trying to get Ashley now to watch it? Okay, I couldn't remember if I had already said it in this sort of memoriam for David. But now that he's gone, I want Ashley to watch it, because I think, as I told you, I think she would really enjoy the mystery element, the horror element, kind of the surrealism and the soap opera kind of elements. I don't think she will like or get, but I know she'll really like the mystery, and I've told her if we ever do get to watch it, with the order in which we have to watch it.
Sure.
But I think that's another reason why she doesn't want to do it, is because she feels like that might be a daunting task.
I mean, if you think about it, it is. But it's fine. I remember when I finally I think I graduated college, and I just graduated maybe a year after I graduated. I was back home, and it had been years that I had been hearing about this, but Showtime finally said, "Hey, David Lynch is back. We're doing Twin Peaks: The Return." I go, "Holy shit, they're gonna do it for real!" And so I go, "Oh no, I need to watch Twin Peaks." So I sat down, I watched Twin Peaks just so I could watch The Return. right? Because I gotta say, I have to because it looks incredible. I had seen like little like whatever trailers or clips of it, and I had seen some Twin Peaks up until that point, not a whole bunch. I didn't just sit down and just watch it. And when I
Yeah.
finally did, of course, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Every prestigious, what we would call prestigious television, that we have, whether it be, if we want to talk more of the modern era, if like Mad Men or Lost or um, or Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, all of that is thanks to David Lynch and ABC or whatever, or maybe it was CBS.
I think it was CBS. I thought it was CBS
Yeah.
that was premiering it.
First off, I mean, yes, CBS, threw some wrenches into the show as a whole, but honestly, man, like, imagine it's 1990, you're sitting at home with your family, and up until that point, nothing really provocative has been shown on TV, and then one day you turn on CBS and Twin Peaks is on. So,
I was wrong. It was ABC.
okay. I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
So I mean, kudos to them. I know that they didn't like the series long mystery. They need it solved and all that stuff. Whatever.
Yeah.
David Lynch made it work as he always does. Whether it be making something up on the day that he did with Mulholland Drive, which was supposed to be a series also, which I'm sure we talked about.
Yeah. That it was. He had filmed 45 minutes for a pilot, and no one wanted to pick it up, and so he was like, "All right, you know what?
Which is insane."
Yeah.
But to fill in the runtime, he was sort of like making stuff up, and sort of like, I think this would be cool, and people just like latch onto it like it's this very long drawn out, like he's thought about this for years, and like he put together the story, and it's all connected and all makes sense. And no, he just thought it'd be cool that day, and they shot it, and that's why it's like that.
Well, which is interesting because again, like I mentioned, I could talk about Twin Peaks for hours because there is so much deep lore in the show that you would think that he and Mark Frost were like, yeah, like we're gonna like this is everything,
Not to say they didn't, but
elements. No, yeah, the elements of I understand what you're saying. The elements of it, they were kind of like, well,
Here's what separates Lynch from everybody else. Okay.
Okay.
Lynch kind of thought it was weird that people were so fixated on the murder mystery when he goes, I just want to be in this world. You don't want to just be in the world? Like, that's why I'm doing it. Like, I want you to just live in Twin Peaks. Isn't that what you're enjoying? And, and I think most people are like, no, who killed Laura Palmer? He goes, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, I was explaining that to a coworker on Thursday. I was like, man, I can't believe he's gone. I think Twin Peaks, I was telling her about Twin Peaks, and I was telling her, the show is fantastic. And we were never supposed to get an answer to who killed Laura Palmer. And she was like, why did he answer it? I'm like, well, he was forced to answer it. But that brings me to another good point about Lynch that I love, that I said at the beginning of this, which is he's unapologetically himself, which is he doesn't care about the little things. I know I've said it in some of our past Lynch episodes of just give me a little bit of a hint or, an answer. He's like, no, figure it out on your own.
Yeah. How does it make you, again, he's a true artist. He believes that the art should speak for itself and should be up for interpretation. It doesn't matter what I think or why I made it. I mean, it does to him, but he knows that it might not to you. So
Hmm.
what you get out of it is just as important as the reasons why he made it. And again, that's pure artistry. Um, and yeah, he's gonna be missed. This is a big loss for filmmaking, um, for storytelling, for artists. I know that people are putting things like candles and letters and mementos on the Big Boy statue in one of the locations in Los Angeles because he does this. And I think we talked about this in the Mulholland Drive episode, where if he likes to eat something, he'll eat it for years until he gets tired of it. And so he's been going to this Big Boy for 2 years, the exact same time every day, eating the same thing every day at the same time. So now people are like gravitating towards it because that's where he's been for the past 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I agree. I don't, you know, I really loved what Martin Scorsese said about Lynch that I sent to you and Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, you know, clarifying by saying, he thinks that the word visionary gets thrown around a lot, but Lynch truly was a visionary, and I agree to that wholeheartedly. And especially his originality. Like, I don't think, like, yes, there are directors and writers out there that are very original, and that's fantastic. But I don't think we'll have anyone as original as Lynch ever again.
No, he's a unique artist all his own. Um, he, yeah, I mean, this one really bummed me out because I
Yeah,
loved his stuff so much. I know other people did. It's like if you don't get it, you don't get it, and that's fine. But if you get it,
yeah,
you love it, and
yeah,
it's like it's we understand those of us who love his stuff, love him, um, even love the quirky stuff he does, like voicing the bartender on the Cleveland show, or doing the
or
weather updates. On He did it for a radio show too in LA. Just giving weather updates every day. Um, it's like if you love him, you absolutely love him, and you just feel like you know him, and you like I can't. Yeah, I mean it's a huge loss. I'm very upset, but how lucky are we? You know,
yeah, I I agree, man. I told Ashley you said that, like, that we got to live in the same time as him,
I got to live. Yeah,
because
we got to live at the same time as David Lynch did.
we've talked about so many fantastic directors on the show, even off the show, between just you and I, texting, or before, before you left me forever. Um, so many of these directors that aren't around anymore, that we get to appreciate their work. Like Brian De Palma, and you know um, Fellini, and um, so many wonderful directors. But we got to live in the same time as David Lynch.
Yeah.
You know, getting to live with him in real time and seeing the things that he's putting out and making, and it's just it's incredible. But yeah, it's a loss. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the only proper way to wrap up this sort of memoriam for him is I think we should have some required viewing for our audience.
Sure.
And I will preach it forever. Everyone should definitely watch Twin Peaks. 100%, full stop. You watch the first 2 seasons of the original show, you watch the movie, and then you watch The Return in that specific order. Do you have any required viewing?
I think if you want to dip your toes, you're not quite sure, but I'm intrigued by this style, but I want to know what's going on. I think you should either watch The Elephant Man or
Oh, yeah.
Mulholland Drive.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are good starters probably. Mulholland Drive is on my top 4 on Letterboxd since I started the app. Um, Mulholland Drive is just incredible to me. Now, that is to me Mulholland Drive and Twin Peaks: The Return. Both I think are his masterpieces. These are one for movies and one for television. They are everything he is, all in one place. And then of course, like if you loved Mulholland Drive and if you loved Elephant Man, I think Eraserhead is the way to go. Um, go ahead and just dive right on in. Um, and then yeah, Twin Peaks. If you like Twin Peaks, watch Blue Velvet or vice versa. If you loved Mulholland Drive and thought I think I can handle it being super weird, then watch Lost Highway. Um, definitely watch The Art Life, the documentary about David Lynch and his process and just what why he loves art and the kind of art that he makes. If you don't have that much time, but want to watch something very avant-garde, very very strange yet intriguing, then watch his short films. You can find most of them on YouTube if you are like us and spend all of our money and all of my child's college money on movies. Eraserhead's Criterion release has most of the short films on there. Yeah. Yeah. And I will even say that even the stuff that I don't truly get, like Wild
Wild at Heart.
yeah, still, I mean, I mentioned that there was still stuff in there that I really loved, that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It just as a whole, I just say I didn't. It wasn't something that I understood or that I didn't vibe with as much. But it only proved my true devotion to David Lynch, because if I didn't like that, then I do really enjoy the other stuff.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, everyone, just take a moment. Let's just honor David Lynch. He'll be missed. And we'll get back to the regular show.